Does talking to strangers make you happier? Could ageing disgracefully help you live longer? I'm Dr. Michael Mosley, and in my Just One Long Thing podcast series, I'll be chatting to doctors and scientists. We'll be covering topics like sleep, exercise, happiness, and staying young, with each of our experts choosing a health hack they claim is the single most effective way you can improve your life. Just One Long Thing. Listen first on BBC Sounds.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast. I'm Amy Canavan, and as we record, it's the interval of the Scottish Premiership season as teams take a breather on their winter breaks. But no rest for us here at the Scottish Football Podcast, as we're publishing mid-season report cards for all 12 top flight teams that will tell you all you need to know about where they are and how they got there. And this episode is dedicated to the side currently sitting in 5th place, St Mirren.
Oh, Sanya through on goal! And he's slotted it by David Marshall!
It's blocked, comes back to Mark O'Hara! St Mirren have the lead!
And it falls! Smashed into the top corner! Oh, it's absolutely wonderful! What a hit that is from Caelan Boyd-Munns.
This is the Scottish Football Podcast.
Joining me to chat all things buddies is the mastermind behind Pie and Bovril and St Mirren fan Div McDonald, and former striker turned sports scene host Stephen Thompson. How are we, guys? Are we all well?
Very well, thanks, Amy.
Tremendous stuff, pleasantries out the way. Loads to get through with Stephen and Div, but first let's take a trip down memory lane and remind ourselves of St Mirren's season so far.
The realism has to be, first and foremost, stay in this division. Don't get too carried away and don't get too excited. And some fans are there to have expectations and get carried away, but I have to temper that and go, look, let's make sure we get the points on the board.
He gets the cross in to Grieve. He's headed into the corner. Alex Grieve sprints off, cups his ear to the away fans.
Greg Kiltie, just before the hour mark, right-footed penalty. Goal! 1-1. Stephen Robinson celebrates, as does Kiltie, as do the Saints players and supporters.
It's Bacchus on the ball, squares it, shooting chance, it's a block, there's the finish, and St Mirren have surely rescued a point.
Yeah, and Hibernian have wrapped it up. They're into the semi-final. 2 for Martin Boyle, 4 for Hibs. Hibs into the semi-finals, 4-2.
That's an opportunity missed. It's very frustrating. The boys are just making no mistake. There's nobody hurting more than the players. They give everything every week, and as I say, they're really disappointed.
Tanser on the overlap. Great ball in. There's Jonah Ayunga. St Mirren have a second, and Aberdeen can't believe it.
We're finishing the year in 5th. I think a lot of people would have been happy with that. I believe there's more to the team. I believe there's more consistency, and we have to get the boys back together again, and hopefully add a couple of people to try and freshen us up as well.
Some standout moments there, and to summarise the Buddies season up to this point, Stephen Robinson's side currently sit 5th in the Premiership with 29 points after 8 wins, 5 draws and 9 defeats after topping their League Cup group stage. They started the league season with a 3-2 win away at Hibs. Their impressive start to the season continued, and after 7 matches they were second in the table. And it wasn't until matchday 15 that Hearts finally overtook them in 3rd. They were knocked out of the League Cup 4-2 by Hibs at the quarter-final stage. They saw out 2023 with an impressive 3-0 victory at Bovril before losing by the same scoreline to Celtic in the final game before the winter break. I'm just thinking there, Div, we could have done this podcast a couple of weeks ago and it'd probably been a bit different, and we could have done this podcast a few months ago and it would have been a little bit different. And that's been the story of many club seasons, including St Mirren's. It's been a little bit of a rollercoaster, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think it always is a rollercoaster supporting St Mirren. I mean, we started the season exceptionally well, as you said, unbeaten in the first 7 games, which is better than I think anybody expected. We obviously hit a little bit of a wobble, but there's still loads to be positive about. Obviously still building on what was our most successful league season in 40 years last season and sitting fifth in the table going into the break. I think we can all be pretty happy with that.
Did expectations need to just be perhaps brought down a little bit, Stephen, after that exceptional campaign last year, and then obviously reaching second at one point in the season? Is it just about just steadying the ship a wee bit?
Yeah, I mean, obviously last season was brilliant. I think every St Mirren fan really enjoyed it. So when you're successful as a team and as a footballer, expectations rise, and that's just natural. But I think they need to be neutered a wee bit when you're a St Mirren fan. The start to the season was incredible, but it was unsustainable. I don't think anybody would have felt as though St Mirren were going to continue to win every game and to be unbeaten and sit second in the table. We have dropped off it in terms of the amount of games that we're winning and the regularity of the games that we're winning. But Div's right, there's a lot to be positive about from the first half of the season. We are in a very, very strong position in the league. However, to caveat that, I do feel as though since September was the last time we won back-to-back league games, we've been winning a game every 5 games, losing some, drawing the odd one here and there. If we continue to kind of perform like that or with that ratio of victories, then we're not going to finish the season in the top 6. So it's important in this break that Stephen Robinson and the team regroup and refocus in terms of trying to pick up wins on a more regular basis in the second half of the season, purely because I feel as though the teams below us haven't really hit their form yet. You look at Aberdeen, they've got 4 games in hand on us. Dundee have 4 games in hand on us. Hibs have 2 games in hand on us. You feel as though as the second half of the season progresses, then we're going to have to win more games. That goes without saying.
Maybe this is not uncommon, Div. Maybe this is the trait of a St Mirren fan, but just with what Tom is saying there, do you kind of have to always have that eye over the shoulder?
We're well used to it. It's a lot easier having your eye over the shoulder when you're sitting in 5th than it is when you're sitting down in 11th, which is where we were for many seasons. So these are great days for us. Of course, Tom was right. We need to find a little bit more consistency. Our home form remains really good. Only Kilmarnock outside the Old Firm have come to Paisley and beat us. And we don't seem to be able to beat Kilmarnock anywhere. So that's not massive surprise. Our away form has been better this season. We've had some good scalps. Beating Hibs away on the opening day was great. Beating Motherwell away. And obviously that sounds from Aberdeen gave everybody a great lift there because we weren't a really dicky run of form at that point. So I think we've gone into the break, as I said at the start, very positively. We do need couple of reinforcements. I think Robinson has said that, and just to refresh the squad, and the one thing you say about Robbo, his recruitment's been pretty stellar. It's been really, really good, and that's why we are where we are. He's recruited well through every window, and I feel as though incrementally we are getting stronger and better pretty much every transfer window, and there's not many teams that can say that, especially on the sort of budget we're playing with.
Div mentions there, Tomo, that these are the good old days for St Mirren, and it's there's plenty of positivity still around Paisley. What if you had to name a performance or a result or so that's impressed you most this season, where would you sort of be casting your eye?
I tell you, the one game I thought that we were outstanding, I've been to a few games, obviously on a Saturday I'm working for Sports Scene, but I've been to a few games when they've not been on a Saturday doing the commentaries and things. I felt as though the game we drew against Aberdeen at home was one of our very best performances, and how Aberdeen got a draw out of that game is beyond me, but I was very impressed with St Mirren that afternoon. Having watched them since, I feel as though clearly there's been a problem in terms of Ryan Strain coming out of the team, who was such a consistent performer for us and gave us a lot of quality down the right-hand side in terms of deliveries into the box. In the early part of the season, we were finding so much joy from wide areas, Conor McMenamin, Tanza, Ryan Strain, and that was a big feature. Get the ball wide and work it into the box seemed to be a pattern that was working for us, and we scored a number of goals from wide areas in the early part of the season. That's dried up a wee bit. I feel as though we miss a natural goal scorer. If you look at the top scorers in the team are all on 3 goals. There's 3 or 4 of them on 3 goals, but I always feel you need that one striker. You look at Motherwell last season and how they managed to progress from the position that they were in due to Kevin Van Veen, and you look at other teams when they've got strikers, Aberdeen, Majowski, Hearts, Shankland, teams that have got regular scorers, it really, really helps you. We've scored enough goals. I mean, when you look at the teams outside the Old Firm and then the bottom 2, the teams in between that have all scored between 20 and 25-ish goals. So we're scoring goals, but I feel as though we need a match winner type player we've got lots of strikers, 4 or 5 strikers. They all offer something different to each other, but none of them, for me, are clinical enough. I really don't think. I don't know what you think, Div.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I think it's the age-old problem. I didn't think you can't get proven quality we won't be available to pay. I think some of the strikers have had good wee patches of form, but none of them have had consistent runs at it, and I think there's been a lot of chopping and changing up front. It's obviously the managers looking for a blend that works. They've got some pace, they've got some strength. They don't really seem to have the ideal pairing yet, and I'd expect to see maybe one more coming in, hopefully a attacking-minded player, be it a striker or a creative midfielder coming in January, because I think that's also what we're lacking a wee bit in the middle of the pit, that wee bit of nous maybe to unlock a defence at a pass, because Conor McMenamin has kind of gone off the boil a little bit as well, and I think we're struggling a wee bit, as you said, without Strano being there. That's definitely affected us for sure, albeit Scotty Cairns of having the season of his life. He's been absolutely tremendous on the left-hand side, and obviously that's now contributed with Terry Small going back down south because he couldn't get a game because of Cairns' form. So maybe that's freed up a wee bit of budget that we could use. I'm sure there'll be a couple of new faces coming in.
Let's take a little bit of a deeper dive behind the personnel then at St Mirren. And Div kind of touched on it there, Stephen, that, Stephen Robinson has this remarkable knack of being able to produce despite his limited budget. And I remember being down at Paisley a few weeks ago. It was the Ross County game, the second game that they faced Ross County in like a matter of 9 days or something like that. And I kind of said to him, what's the secret to success? And he wouldn't tell me, which is fair. If you had to kind of pinpoint what is it that makes Stephen Robinson and St Mirren just tick, what would you pin it to? If he's not giving me the answer, I'll come to you. You're the next best person to ask.
Well, I think the one thing that you'll find with Stephen Robinson's teams is that they're always very competitive, very hard-working, very well organised and disciplined. So those are the attributes that he brings on the training ground, and you always find that St Mirren are a difficult team to play against. And I think that's a big compliment to Stephen Robinson and his management. He has tried to bring in more pace this season, and it's clear to me that he likes to get the ball forward into wide areas and work it into the box. Div's right, we do miss a wee bit of just that wee spark in the final third, not necessarily from the strikers, but maybe a more creative midfielder. And to reiterate again what Div's saying, it's difficult because if you want to go and find a creative midfielder in January that's willing to come to St Mirren on the wages that we're willing to give them, it's very difficult to find that type of player. Same goes for a striker. We've already got 4 or 5 strikers on the books. I'd be surprised if we brought in another striker, but maybe a wee bit more quality in terms of somebody that can play in behind the opposition defence. And I do feel as though probably another wide player wouldn't be a bad option for us, somebody with a bit of pace in the wide areas as well. So Stephen Robinson, for me, he's a very good manager. His teams work incredibly hard. They know their roles and responsibilities within the team, and that alone will get you to a certain level in the league. But the problem you've got is there's not very much difference between the teams in the league. There's very little between the teams in the league. It's highly competitive, right from the top 2. Obviously, you take those out of the equation, but it's very, very competitive. The teams with the bigger budgets, you'd expect to do better. Hearts, who are now starting to perform really well. Hibs, Aberdeen. Out with that, anybody can finish in the top 6 out of the other teams. So it's competitive, and you've got to find the edge. You've got to find the wee bit of magic that's going to get you there. And as I said earlier, for Motherwell last season, Van Veen was the key for them. You're just waiting on somebody stepping up. Mark O'Hara had a fantastic season for us last year. His form's dipped. You're not going to play well all the time. I feel as though Alex Gogic for us has been very, very consistent. In the midfield, I feel there's an awful lot of chopping and changing centrally. And for me, I would have Keanu Bacchus in the team from the start every game, whether he's been injured or not, and he's been in and out the side. But finding the right blend, and I do think at times there has been a wee bit too much chopping and changing. When you go to Aberdeen and you win 3-0 away from home, which is an extremely good result after 6 away defeats, then if I was a player, I'd be expecting to start the next game if I started that game. But the Celtic game, he changed it, and obviously it didn't work out very early on. The game was over. So it's trying to find the team that's going to be picked and consistently picked, earning your right to be in that team. And I feel as though there's a wee bit too much chopping and changing.
You're listening to the Scottish Football Podcast.
Right then, let's not look back the way, let's look forward. So, as we sort of touched on, guys, that the expectations were high after a terrific campaign last year. Where are the expectations now for this season, given what you've seen out of the first 5-6 months, Div?
I still like to think we can challenge for top 6 again. I don't really see any reason why not. Tom was absolutely bang on. There's very, very fine lines between pretty much 10 of the teams in the division. I'd even include Livingston in that. They're not massively worse than anybody else. Just going through a really bad run and maybe got a limited squad there. But the rest of us are all, very, very tight. You look at the first goal means everything to us. It goes without saying. But the 8 games we've won, we've scored the first goal in all 8 of them. And we've only rescued 4 points when we go a goal behind. So we're a team that we need to go ahead, because we're a first team that doesn't really want the ball. Bizarrely, I wish it's Robbo ball. He doesn't really want too much of the ball. But I think if we can be lucky with injuries, suspensions, get a wee bit of momentum going, I don't see any reason why we can't challenge top 6 and hopefully have a good cup run. I think we've got a good draw in the cup, and I think Stephen will know, as a St Mirren fan, you look at the Scottish Cup every season and you hope for a good run there. And with some home draws there, I'd like to hopefully see us back at Hampden, maybe at least a semi-final and maybe even a final, who knows? Top 6
and getting back to Hampden, that'd be alright, Tom Owe?
That's so optimistic, isn't he? Yeah, I mean, he's forgetting what team he supports. No, I think finishing top 6 is well within St Mirren's capabilities. The first half of the season, as we've outlined in the podcast, lots of positives, but as I said previously, there's things to work on and improve on. If we do get Ryan Strain back and we're lucky with injuries and we can find a permutation with the attacking players that gives us a wee bit more threat and we're more clinical, we take more of our chances that we create, then I think that's going to really help us. The problem for me that I foresee is that the teams that are below us currently, a few of those teams are going to start popping up the league and start jumping up the league. They've got games in hand, and you can't expect a team like Aberdeen or Hibernian with the budget that they've got to be as inconsistent as they have been for the first part of the season into the second part of the season. Dundee need to be watched as well. So I feel as though it could actually be really tight for that 6th spot when we get towards the end of the season, when the split comes and things like that. I feel as though it could be a battle right to kind of the last few games to try and get into that top 6 spot. But we do have to find a level of consistency that's better than we have right now. Winning 1 game every 5 is not going to get us where we need to be. I say that, you look throughout the league and the inconsistency levels have been ridiculous from most of the teams. So Hearts have started to put a wee run together, and you would expect that they, if they can keep Lawrence, that is, would kick on in the second half of the season. So it's there for St Mirren. It is definitely there, a top 6 finish. As for the Cup, it would be amazing to get to Hampden, as Div says. We've got Queen of the South at home, which is a game that you would expect to win, although Cup games are difficult. You never know. If you win the Queen of the South game, you know that you're just a few games away from Hampden and anything is possible. You know, that's the mentality when you get to a Cup game. You count down the games that are left to get to where you need to be. And actually, when you strip it back, you're saying, we only need to win 2 games and we're at Hampden if they beat Queen of the South, sort of thing. So that has to be the mentality of the players. It'd be great to see a Cup run. If they can get back-to-back top 6 finishes, I think that would be a huge, huge achievement. To think last season finishing 6th, that St Mirren were going to all of a sudden be pushing the likes of Hearts for 3rd, I think it's a jump too much considering the financial disparity between the 2 clubs and what we can bring to the club and what they can. Stephen Robinson is getting the best out of the squad that he's got at this minute in time, but whether we'll just fall short or not, I don't know.
Well, that all remains to be seen. Stephen Thompson, Div McDonald, thank you both very much for joining us for the Scottish Football Podcast mid-season report card for St Mirren. Thank you for listening, and remember, we'll have a very special episode on every Premiership club throughout the winter break. So make sure you follow and you subscribe so you don't miss out on any of them. Until tomorrow, bye-bye.
Just a quick reminder, the Behind the Goals podcast is available every Tuesday with me, Rachel Corsey.
And me, Leanne Crichton. It's your one-stop shop for our take on everything that's happening in the world of football.
Just head to BBC Sounds or wherever you get your podcasts and search for Behind the Goals.